a great interview a couple days ago.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was an honor to sit down with the president in the Roosevelt Room on Friday, right before the bill signing of the VA Accountability Act, which is in and of itself a historic moment. But we had a chance to exclusively ask him the latest on health care and what does he think the bill can get done. Some of the headlines, the opposition, the resistance against him. It's some pretty interesting answers that you're going to see only here on Fox and Friends. Take a listen. Mr. President, thank you very much for joining Fox.
Thank you, Pete.
Appreciate it. You faced resistance on this bill, but of course you've faced resistance on the entirety of your agenda. Who's been your biggest opponent? Has it been Democrats resisting? Has it been fake news media? Has it been deep state leaks? When you think about it, what holds it up the most?
Well, you know, when I ran, I talked about the rigged system because I saw I was winning states and I wasn't getting the delegates that I should be getting. And, you know, I would look at this. I said, what kind of a system? Well, the whole system is there's a lot of bad things going on, a lot of very bad things going on. One of the things that should be solved, but it probably won't be, is that the Republicans and Democrats don't get together. And I'm open arms, but I don't see that happening. They fight each other. The level of hostility, and by the way, this isn't just Trump. This has been like this for years. You've been doing this for a long time. It's been like that for a long time. But the level of hostility, as an example, the health care bill that you are reporting on and everybody's reporting on, it would be so great if the Democrats and Republicans could get together, wrap their arms around it, and come up with something that everybody's happy with. It's so easy. But we won't get one Democrat vote, not one. And if it were the greatest bill ever proposed in mankind, we wouldn't get a vote. And that's a terrible thing. So there is. Well, look, their theme is resist. I've never heard of anything like this, resist.
How frustrating it is to have former President Obama. They're out there leading the resistance.
Well, I don't think he's leading it. He actually just put out a small statement. I don't see that leading it, but other people are leading. Don't forget, I saw Schumer criticizing the bill a couple of weeks ago, and he had no idea what was in the bill. He was saying this bill is this and it's that. He had no idea. In fact, the Republican senators didn't know because it wasn't released. Very few people knew. So he was criticizing a bill that he had no idea what was in the bill. But that's called the resistance. I mean, that's a terrible word. Think of it. Their theme is resist. Their theme should be, let's get together, envelop,
fix.
Let's get together. But their theme is resist. It's obstruction. And the problem is they become obstructionists. And the voters, I happen to like it from the standpoint of running for office, but I think it's a terrible theme in terms of getting elected. And more importantly, I think it's a terrible theme for the people of this country. Resist, obstruction. That's not what they want.
How do you overcome that when someone like Senator Warren, Elizabeth Warren, literally says people are going to die because of President Trump's health care bill?
Well, I actually think she's a hopeless case. I call her Pocahontas, and that's an insult to Pocahontas. I actually think that she is just somebody that's got a lot of hatred, a lot of anger.
But she's got a loud microphone. And
well, she does, but you know, I don't think she has the kind of support that some people do. I think she hurt Hillary. I watched her campaigning for Hillary. And she was so angry. Hillary would be sitting back listening to her, trying to smile. But there were a lot of people in that audience that were going, wow, is this what we want? There's a lot of anger there and hostility. So, no, I think she's a highly overrated voice.
Some people might say the lever of anger is unprecedented, but it's also unprecedented for a former president to come out the way President Obama has. He came out on Facebook recently. You may have seen it. He said, your bill, Mr. President, not a health care bill. It's a massive transfer of wealth. It's going to harm Americans. It's mean. What do you say to the former president?
Well, he actually used my term, mean. That was my term, because I want to see, and I speak from the heart. That's what I want to see. I want to see a bill with heart. Healthcare is a very complicated subject from the standpoint that you move it this way and this group doesn't like it. You move it a little bit over here. You have a very narrow path. And honestly, nobody can be totally happy, even without the votes. Forget about votes. This has nothing to do with votes. This has to do with picking a plan that everybody's going to like. I'd like to say love, but like. But we have a very good plan. We have a few people that are, I think you could say modestly, they're not standing on the rooftops and screaming. They want to get some points. I think they'll get some points.
Are Republican senators doing enough to have your back to get that health care bill through?
I think so. You know, I have great relationships with most of the people in the Senate, with, as you know, most of the people in the House. I think I really I worked very hard. I made a lot of great friendships with the people in the House, a lot of them. Same thing in the Senate. They're four very good people. They're friends of mine. And I don't think they're that far off. I don't think they're that far off. You know, famous last words, right? But I think we're going to get there. For years, I've been watching the battle of health care. And I watched during the Clinton administration, Hillary, rightfully, devoted her life to trying to get health care. She was unable to get it. You watched what happened with Obamacare, which by the time they finished with it, it was, you know, something that doesn't work. But look what happened with Nebraska, where they gave the great Nebraska giveaway in order to give a vote.
Cornhusker kickback.
And it was a very closed session. You know, they talk about closed and behind closed doors. There was nothing more closed than Obamacare. But the bottom line is they worked so long and so hard. They got a plan that didn't work. They got a health care plan that didn't work. And I've only been there for 5 months. You know, they worked for a long time. During the Clinton administration, they worked essentially during the entire administration. Healthcare is a very, very tough thing to get, but I think we're going to get it. We don't have too much of a choice because the alternative is the dead carcass of Obamacare. That's what it is.
I opened up the failing New York Times and the Washington Post this morning. No mention at all of this bill that you're signing today. For veterans who are so passionate about this, it's such a historic bill. Are they going to cover this? And if they don't, why don't they cover it the way they cover every breathless scandal in the media today?
Well, I just heard today for the first time that Obama knew about Russia a long time before the election, and he did nothing about it. But nobody wants to talk about that. That the CIA gave him information on Russia a long time before they even, before the election. And I hardly see it. It's an amazing thing to me. In other words, the question is, if he had the information, why didn't he do something about it? He should have done something about it. But you don't read that. It's quite sad.
That never leaked out.
That doesn't leak out. No, they're very selective leaks with sources. I always love the sources, many of which don't exist. But no, there is a thing going on in the country, and hopefully it's somewhat of a sickness in that sense. But you know what? I am so proud of what we've done in such a short period of time.
He's so much more optimistic about health care, about just the idea of coming together than anyone in the media, it seems, has been. When he talked about Republicans are not that far off, we were talking about it as we were watching it. And if you listen to the media, it's disaster. You've got 5 Republican senators. This is never going to work. Look how much of a disaster this is for Republicans. You hear from the president. He said, I know these people. I understand what they're debating, and we're going to get there. We aren't that far apart.
They said the same thing about the House bill. Remember the House bill that didn't have enough votes and conservatives were holding out? That's effectively what you have with Rand Paul and Mike Lee and Ted Cruz and Ron Johnson. These are conservatives who want to see some improvements, but they ultimately want to get to yes. And the president was quite confident that as a deal maker, he can do that. It's all about how you message it as well, because the Democrats are saying, you want to kill people. No, this bill gradually and responsibly does some important things for health care.
You talked to him about, Chuck Schumer out there saying that it's going to kill people, CBO numbers coming out, saying you're going to slash Medicaid. This is, tax cuts for the rich, and you're slashing Medicaid. People are going to die under this bill. And no movement for them to come to the table and say we need to fix Obamacare. And because we realize it's on shaky ground, they're just watching it sort of collapse around.
Because you're always going to have a resistance movement from whoever's not in power. But it used to be that at least the party that's not in power would come to the table and debate their side of it to try to get somewhere. And what he was saying, and I think this is true, is there's no even effort from the Democrats. In fact, they don't even want to read the bill. They don't even want to come to the table to make anything better. And that's not just a problem for their party. That's a problem for this country, because I think the American people are getting really frustrated about that.
Not only is there no effort, but they impugn the motives of President Trump and Republicans and say, no, you want to hurt people. You want to redistribute wealth to the rich. No, maybe we have a different way of believing we can revive the private health care market. Maybe we think that by introducing competition and choice, you can improve outcomes. We can be responsible about it. It doesn't even phase in changes to Medicare until 2021. And even then, states are going to have maximum flexibility. And you're looking at credits and different things that Republicans appreciate and understand as far as policy. Yet the left screams you're killing people. And I think the Republicans can win this argument by simply laying out what their bill does and how it's going to improve insurance for a lot of Americans, including those at the bottom.
You're seeing a shift, though, among Democrats recently in some of the rhetoric and discussions over the past 24, 48 hours about Russia. and maybe needing and realizing that we should step back from this because it's not helping us at all. It's not helping us put forward our Democratic agenda, whatever that might be. And the president frustrated about it. You talked with him about that, whether there's collusion. He's fired up about it.
He's fired up. He's saying there is no collusion, there was no obstruction, and there's been no evidence of it. And if there was, I guarantee you that's what it would have leaked at this point. So if you're a Democrat, and there's Democrats going to their town halls and going back to their district and then coming back to Washington and saying, wake up, guys. No one's talking about Russia.
And the people are telling him we don't want to hear about it.
We don't want to hear about it because we haven't seen any evidence that it's true. So I think President Trump had a confidence to him yesterday, feeling like we can punch through this. And the media might be yelling, but we're on the verge of a big week. We could pass this bill.
And the fact that he mentioned former President Obama knowing something before any of us did. And that sort of, as you said, changes the narrative here. Maybe we're going to see Democrats quiet down. We've even heard from some, as you said, one senator from Vermont who's come out and said, Democrats, we've got to back down from this. This is not a winning cause for our party.
We're going to play more of the interview coming up here. We just told you, though, about this. Those 5 Republican senators holding the fate of the health care bill in their hands by threatening to vote no. So who are they? What do they want? We're going to break down the list of Republicans and what it could cost next.
And Bernie Sanders and his wife, they're lawyering up the latest on their troubles with the FBI and whether or not their fans in the media, they're going to bother to cover it at all. We'll see.